Well, here we go. Welcome to the Profit Tool Belt podcast. This is just for contractors. Now, if you serve residential or commercial customers and you're interested in the business of the contracting business, then welcome because you're in the right place. We talk about the business of business here. And look, I know you're here looking for straightforward, no BS answers. And today we're going to deliver that to the next level, especially for those of you who have questions about hiring, uh, retaining, onboarding, keeping good people. Where do you find them? Is there a magic box that all the good employees live in? How do I find that? So today's topic is me, and we're going to be talking about how to hire great carpenters. Now, here's a couple of reasons why this episode is important for you if you don't already know, right? As you know, if you really want to grow your business, you need to grow it through your people. That's number one. Number two, I want to show you some of the magic unknown places to find those carpenters, benchmen, tradesmen, drivers, installers, finishers, molder operators, post hole diggers, all those things. We could find those people. We just have to know how to do it. I'm going to show you that today. And then number three, I want to outline and sketch for you what the onboarding process looks like and how important it is to making the most out of your new hires. Now, you might not have an onboarding process right now. It's actually not hard to put one in place. It's an SOP, standard operating procedure. It's just a consistent system. This show is all about simple systems. And so that's what I want to share with you there. If at any point you want to learn more about one-on-one coaching, shoot me a text. Just say, Dom, let's talk. And then you know what we'll do? We'll talk. Hey, I didn't tell you my cell phone number. It's 315-903-7853. So listen, this is going to be a mindset shift for many of you because you're at that point where you realize you can't do all the work yourself. I actually talked about that in the episode. But that mindset comes with understanding a different way of seeing things. And I want to influence you just openly. I want to influence you. So actually tell me what happens right. I know. How many of you yawned? How many of you need to yawn right now? See what I did there? That's influence. When you hang out with myself and people like us, mentors, guides, leaders in this business on business improvement, operational excellence, great customer service, you start to do what people like us do. And that's what you just did there when you yawned. It was a sneaky trick, wasn't it? Those are the kinds of simple systems that I'm talking about here. It's not complex. I had to learn it. Trust me, if I could learn something, it's learnable. I used to have something that I would tell people training me things. I hope you never hear this from one of your new employees. So let's say your name is Jeff. I'd say, Jeff, I've learned harder things. I just can't remember what they are. I'm sure that a lot of my bosses hated that about me. Anyways, hey, what a great transition. I want to get you laughing. I want to get your mind open here what our guest has to say because I'm going to tell dad jokes, bad jokes, and dad jokes poorly delivered. So you see, a guy goes to IKEA to attend an interview for a job opening. The first thing the recruiter says is, welcome, sir. Please assemble this chair and have a seat. There's a business owner, a contractor, and he's talking to a new carpenter. He goes, hey, why'd you leave your last job? The carpenter goes, well, it was something my foreman said. So the business owner says, well, what did he say? Carpenter goes, he said, you're fired. Hey, I got a kid's joke for you. You want to share this one with the kids? What is the most popular job for spiders? Web designer. You knew that one was coming. Half of you finished that before I did. Sometimes when I'm doing an interview, I have to catch myself that I don't give somebody the answer to the question when I ask them the interview question, right? Like I might say, it's really important here that we're on time. How do you feel about being on time? Well, listen, if they didn't pick up what I'm putting down, then they can't get hired anyways. But they will always come back and say, oh, yeah, time's really critical to me because I told them in the question, right? So are you doing that? It's another little trick. But this business owner is having an interview with the guy and he goes, hey, we're looking to hire somebody very responsible for this job. The guy's there and he goes, you know what? I think I'm the one you're looking for. My last job, they said I was responsible for everything that went wrong. Ouch. 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 Hey, let's go back to kids' jokes before we move on. I do want you to tell this one to your kids. Now, your kids, your grandkids, your nieces, your nephews, neighbor, whoever it is, you're going to get a giggle out of this one. Did you guys know I just hired a koala? Yeah, he had all of the qualifications we're looking for. They're just going to run away and ask you for a cookie. All right. Look, stay to the end of the show for a very specific training segment. Today's segment is more on the people topic. So stay tuned for that. Remember, at any time, you can always shoot me a text. My cell phone number is 315 903 7853. And just say, Dom, let's talk. And then we'll talk. Now, keep in mind, as we go into the final quarter of the year, we're going to be having some training webinars. They're professional development masterclasses. The next one's going to be on time, team, and money. If you want to be on the next one that's coming, send me the word waitlist. Just say waitlist in your text message, and then I'll know to put you on the waitlist, and I'll invite you on the calendar. It's a Zoom call. You should be at your desk so you can take notes. I'm going to be sharing slides, but it's going to be a professional development course specifically for business owners in the trades. So I think you'll enjoy it. So just shoot me a message that says waitlist. Anyways, let us get us to the rest of us. We'll see you in the interview. Hey, and welcome to the podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about how to hire carpenters. Now, before we get too far, you might say, well, Dom, you almost got it right. I do need to hire carpenters, but the position I really need is, and hang on for a second, because I wrote some notes here. So I'm going to look in my book as we prepare for this episode. Dom, you said how to hire carpenters, but I need to hire technicians. I need to hire benchmen. Oh, I need to hire a driver. Oh, Dom, you didn't say how to hire an apprentice or a carpet installer, or electricians, or plumbers, or HVAC, or roofers, or cabinet installers. You didn't say how to hire molder operators. Dom, you didn't say that, right? You didn't say I need to hire a laborer. Dom, you didn't say how to hire painters, talking about house painters, or finishers, for those of you that do and understand cabinetry or millwork finishing, right? You didn't say how to hire upholsterers. Of course I didn't, because the process is exactly the same. Today, we're going to talk about how to hire carpenters, how to hire people who work with their hands that are the right fit for you and your company to help you fulfill the promises that you made to the clients you signed agreements with. Now, this isn't going to matter whether you do commercial or residential work. It doesn't matter where you are in the world. All of these tools and tactics we're going to talk about here are real and proven. And the reason I know they're real is because we use them. And the reason I know they're proven is because we prove them all the time. Because hiring people is not magic. It actually follows a system. Now, if you hope and pray, you're going to get hope and pray results, which you don't want. So let's get into it. So first of all, where are all the good carpenters? How many of us are frustrated at that? Put up your hand. You know what? They're all around you. They're everywhere. And look, we got into this business generally because we're really good at our trade, at our craft. Maybe you were a cabinet maker. Maybe you were an electrician. Maybe you were a roofer, and then you got into it. Maybe you sold roofing or sold cabinetry or sold home renos, and then you got into business ownership. But you had some technical skill that made you think, hey, I'm ready now to be a business owner. And so you're really good at that. Problem is, now you need to be a leader. You need to be, as we say on the show here, I'm a business person who just happens to run a construction company. So you're in a perfect place, and you're listening to the perfect episode, by the way. And look, you're busy. We've talked about your revenue responsibility per hour. There's only so many hours for you in a day. You simply can't do everything. And by the way, get home in time so your wife can go to choir practice, or get home in time so you can take your son to Cub camp, or get home in time to take your kids fishing. All of the things that we need to do as dads and parents, and live a life is basically the point, right? Have time to visit your aging parents who are just dying to see you. And by the way, run a company. There's only so many hours in your day. So you and I need to think at the highest level, the business owner level of the business. And so the first exercise I'm going to encourage you to do is your revenue responsibility per hour. Now, if there's anybody out there listening who also has a degree in economics, you'll recognize immediately that I just spoke about Ricardo's law of comparative advantage, which is super dorky to use that word and kind of pompous for me to quote it. But I do want to give the academic reference. We call it revenue responsibility per hour. Before I dig into that number, what it means is, imagine that I'm looking out over all of my business operations, right? We've got all the office staff, we've got all the field staff, or in the case of those of you who have a shop, you've got your shop staff. You're overlooking all of that. And your responsibility as the owner is to make sure that the company is firing on all cylinders at an hourly rate that we're going to figure out in a second. What that really means is that you can't afford to waste your time doing anything under that hourly rate. So we're going to use a very simple number, which is $1 million. A lot of you listen to this show because you want to get to your first million. A lot of you are listening to the show because you're at your first million and you want to get to your second, third, or 20th million. So you're in good company. But let's use $1 million because it's easy math. I can do it on my fingers. And then let's also make another assumption that in any given year, you work 40 hours a week. You see, guys, I don't just do dad jokes at the beginning of the show. 40 hours a week. I know some of you do that by Wednesday morning, but let's assume that you do 40 hours a week and you work 50 weeks a year. And the reason I say 50 weeks a year is because you're off for Thanksgiving or you off for summer vacation or you take a week at Christmas. So not 52, but 50. And plus, it's very easy for me to do the math. 40 hours a week times 50 weeks is 2,000 hours. Now, do your own math in your own book at your own pace as we go. But if your sales per year are $1 million and you work 2,000 hours per year, we divide those two numbers together and we come up with the number 500. That's your revenue responsibility per hour. So that means everything you do, including listening to this episode, it absolutely must bring you $501 per hour or more, or it's time to delegate it, which brings us back to how do I hire carpenters? How do I find people to help me grow the team? So we're going to figure that out right now. Now, first, you're going to say, Dom, I've tried to hire people or I've got people, but none of them are as good as me. Let's agree right up front, none of them are ever going to be as good as you. I would consider it an out of the park success if I hired somebody who came to be 60, maybe 70, maybe even 80% of my work volume, my work output, my work capability, my quality control. It's just people that are coming to work for you have a different sense of what that is, than being the owner. So let's change our expectations. I'd love, and our goal is certainly to hire people better than me, better than you, better than all of us. But let's be happy if we've got somebody who's 70, 75, 80% of your output, your capacity, your QC. Okay, so let's start there. Expectations, right? And listen, most of the good people are already working somewhere. So there's the dream world. If you've got somebody who's perfect who comes in and says, I'm not working, we have some more questions to ask. But the good news is to get your guys performing at the highest level, there's systems for that. And that's what you listen to this show for. If you ever have questions, reach out to me. You guys know my cell. Send me a text message and say, Dom, let's talk. And then you know what we'll do? We'll talk. Anyways, you have lots of options when it comes to finding carpenters. Lots of options. And I want you to remember, so I said this a couple of episodes ago, and I don't know if you heard it. My team and I actually believe it's our job to give you every single unfair advantage, every single one. You actually took advantage of the unfair advantage by subscribing and listening to this podcast. And so if you took the time to do that, I'm going to give it all to you. I'm going to give you all the unfair advantages. Your competitor across the street, your competitor across town probably isn't listening to this show, either watching it on YouTube or listening to us a podcast. And even if they do, they may not even take action. But here, I'm going to lay it all out for you, all of it, so you can figure out how to hire great carpenters, right? So, and first, I understand it's a pain because we go through this question with all of our coaching clients in all of our different coaching programs. Here's how it typically looks. You spend a ton of time. You rewrite the ad a couple of times. You hand it off to somebody and ask them to post it on Indeed or put it on Facebook, which you can't really do anymore. But there's local job boards. You're like, let's put it on the local job boards. Let's send it out there. Let's spend money on Indeed. And then you contact the person at Indeed, and he says, you know what? You're not spending enough on Indeed. You need to spend more for the ads so they show up. And you're like, oh, okay, let's do that. And you find yourself on a treadmill. Or you hire a recruiter. And you guys have heard the number here before. Typically, a recruiter takes 30% of somebody's first year salary or wage. Now, there's not a lot of recruiters for carpenters. Typically, recruiters work on office positions. So that kind of automatically knocks that one off as an option. But then you wait, no matter what you've got hopefully applicants coming in. Now you have to wait for people to apply. In the meantime, the work is piling up. You can't get ahead of it. Customers are calling you. Big headache. You're saying, I'm hiring more people. They say, how come you haven't hired more people? You get the rigmarole, right? Then you get some applications. You look through it and nobody's perfect. And so you feel like you've got to take the best of the worst bunch, right? There's maybe one resume that looks good and you just hang on to that. You're like, oh, and hopefully I can hire this person, which puts you, by the way, in a place of scarcity. And we don't want you to be in a place of scarcity. We want you to be in a place of opportunity. You run the greatest contracting business in your city, and anybody would be proud to be on your team, and anybody would be proud to have you as their contract. And we already know that because you listen to this show, and you only listen to this show if you care about your business, right? And then, unfortunately, you put all your hopes on that one resume, and they ghost you, or they tell you, hey, I talked to my boss, he's going to give me a raise. Oh, how many of us have had that happen? And I've seen it happen even with our coaching clients. Or they just say, look, I took a job somewhere else, right? And then you go back and repeat the process, hoping and praying. So what we need is a system to find experienced carpenters really quickly. We're talking about 7 days. You can find them. I don't want you to think that you're up against the wall. I don't want you to have to jump back on the tools. I want you to find the right people with the right attitude. And we do have a lot of attitude tools here. If you want to understand hiring for attitude, send me a text and just say hiring for attitude, and I'll send you the how to hire for attitude framework that we've got. It includes scripts, by the way, what to say to people when you're on the phone with them or if they show up at the job site. So it's pretty important. But listen, the first thing I'm going to do here on recruiting is I want you to understand that recruiting is marketing. And now you would say to me, well, Dom, I'm not sure if you've heard me before, but I don't want to be a marketer. I'm really good at taking pieces of wood, big pieces of wood, and I cut them into small pieces of wood, and then I reassemble them into beautiful pieces of wood. And I get it. That's generally what we do as trades. I say wood, plumber, electrician, like in the trades in general, right? Or if you're in a department or a division. But it's marketing. Really, we're just marketing for the right kind of people. And if you start to view it like that, you start to see the world a little bit differently. Because the first thing you have to understand is your target. Your target. Who do we actually want working here? So I want you to imagine yourself as a business owner being in a place where you say, I'm looking for a very specific kind of person. So right now you might be saying, I'm just looking to hire anybody who's a carpenter. Okay, so you're going to get anybody applying. But if you had a system, and these are the systems that we show you, but if you had a system that said, I want a left-handed carpenter who's right-eye dominant, that's redheaded, and used to play soccer, we can find that person because we build a system that attracts that person. That's called marketing. Now, if any of you have a really weird and wonky desire for that particular employee, he's already taken. But I'm just saying, and we have to be very, 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 very specific about what we want. And when we're specific about what we want, we can then go out and target that person. We can go find them. We can market to them. We can speak to them. So much so that when they see the ad, they go, oh my gosh, this looks like the job for me. And then they take that ad and they go home to their kitchen table and say, honey, you won't believe it, but the job we as a family have been dreaming of is here. It's in our town. I just didn't know it. I'm going to go apply. Or the wife sees the job post and says, honey, this is the job we as a family have been hoping you would be able to get. That is when we remove the random and we put systems in place. So the very first thing is targeting the right kind of person. We'll talk about it here today. And then onboarding. Once you've hired the right person, you have to onboard them right. You guys have probably heard me talk about this. I was speaking at a conference, and another gentleman who was doing another learning track at that conference is a new immigrant. He hasn't been in the country all that long, and he has built what can only be called an empire. He is a franchisee, a multi-unit franchisee of multiple franchises. This guy's on fire. And so he was speaking about, running multiple businesses at a time. For those of us listening right now who are saying, I could barely run one company, how can this guy run multiple? There's no way, Dom. I'm telling you, there's people out there that do that, including myself. Just it comes down to some other tools we talk about in other episodes, right? Time management, discipline, focus, direction, and having the systems to follow. But in this case, he was talking to me at the bar after, as always happens at the conference, right? You go to the bar. And he said something super interesting to me, just passed it along. It was part of his presentation. Some of you may have been there. He said, Dominic, you either hired the right person and trained them wrong, or you hired the wrong person. Either way, it's 100% on you. And so when we talk about onboarding, ask yourself, when you hired your last person who did or didn't work out, did you onboard them properly? Did you tell them what it means to be in our company? Rubino Contracting, Rubino Cabinets, Rubino Closets, Rubino Plumbing, Rubino HVAC, Rubino Roofing. It doesn't matter. What does it mean to be in our company? And if you're not really sure what that is, that's okay. Just say, hey, look, we do really good work for really great clients. And what that means is da, 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 da. So lay that out for the person. That's the most basic level of onboarding. Instead of, hey, jump in the truck, I'll pick you up at the 7-Eleven, make sure you're there on time. You're not showing somebody how to be on your team. So onboarding is all about showing somebody how to be on your team. Now, there are systems for onboarding. As a matter of fact, we have an onboarding SOP. Guess how, if you want that, send me an email, text. Sorry, don't email. Send me a text, 315-903-7853, and just say onboarding. And that's the name of that particular professional development tool. Get the onboarding SOP. And then there's managing people, right? So we talked about targeting the right employee. We talked about onboarding the employee properly. We already also talked about the attitude of the proper employee, which you can also text me for. And then there's managing and growing a team. All of these things are important because really, when we're at this point of running a business where you're listening to a show like this, you're developing a team that will help you deliver great projects. So there are slightly different recruiting processes for people that are on the tools than for people who are in the office. But in large part, they're the same. The differences is where you can find them. And when we're looking for carpenters, when we're looking for people on the tools, that target part becomes really, really, really important because where to find them is where we are frustrated. So first, you need a job description. And look, it doesn't have to be complicated. I need somebody with 2 years experience building decks. But put something together about, needed experienced carpenter to build decks, needed experienced carpenter to build cabinets, experienced carpenter to run CNC, whatever that is. You really want to just clearly define what the job is because people need to know what they're applying for, right? When you write that ad, make sure you include a couple of key parts, right? What's an overview of the position? What's the role and responsibilities? What are they going to be measured against? And what are the job requirements? Now, depending on the target, we're going to want to really simplify that or expand it. So if you're hiring an estimator, that job description that you post online or you give to a recruiter is going to be very complicated, very complex. If you're hiring a laborer, they're not going to give you that stuff. They probably don't even have a resume. What they've got is beat up hands and tools. You can just tell when you look at them, this guy or this gal, they know what they're doing, right? So we're not always going to get a resume. So don't get too fancy depending on your position. Remember, the most important thing first is target. Who is my ideal new employee? Because we have to market to them, right? So now you write the ad. Now, this is where things are a little bit different. You might have different versions of the same ad, right? You might have different versions. You're going to laugh that most of the things I'm talking about today, I'm actually going to make fun of the online tools because the online tools work. But hey, guess what? Your perfect carpenter is probably not online. He's not on LinkedIn. He's not on Indeed. He's not on Seek. He's just not. You're more likely to find your perfect carpenter by posting to the telephone poles all the way up to the swap meet, flea market, or the next drag races, or let's say you've got a 4-H show coming up and people are walking in and out of the barn. You're just going to find your carpenter where carpenter kind of people hang out, doing cool stuff with their family, going out on the weekends. Remember, target is the first and most important things. And I have some pretty cool examples for you in a minute. So your job ad's going to be a little bit different depending on where you post it. So one of the things that I like to do is, yes, telephone poles. And you're like, come on, Rubino, telephone poles. I just want you to think of the kind of thing that's on a telephone pole. It's a very basic 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. On the top is job ad. It says carpenter, now hiring carpenters. What a great ad. Now hiring carpenters, now hiring senior benchmen, now hiring cabinet finishers, whatever your role is, right? And then on the bottom, on these vertical little rectangles, you make these cutoffs. And those cutoffs have a cell phone number on it, right? You want to keep it really, really easy for people to apply. Now, I said it goes on a telephone pole, but that thing can go everywhere, everywhere. Some of the companies that are really, really onto marketing for the right people understand that that tool can be used in multiple places. One of the places you're probably overlooking, catch this for a second, especially those of you who have a shop, if everybody comes to the shop first before They get dispatched for the day. Many of you who listen have your own shops. Um, Above the urinal. I know you're laughing. You're like, seriously, Rubino? Yeah. Above the urinal and on the back door of the stall so that, when you're sitting in the stall, you can see it. And I know you're laughing, but you got to go where the people are, right? And there's a little tear off tab. Now, when we're advertising internal to the business, you might even want to say to your people, hey, refer us somebody. And after they stay for 3 months, we'll bonus you $300. Let them know that there's a bonus for referring somebody. Now, you have to be the kind of company they would want to refer to, but they will go tell their friends this weekend. They will. And that's how you're going to get some people. So we're still talking about that 8.5 by 11 piece of paper with a little tear off tabs. But think about places you could post that where your perfect guy, your perfect gal, whoever that next employee is currently hanging out. All right. I'm going to give you another one. We've talked about this on the show before. It just works so well, but many of you will still laugh at it. We're currently using this in Northern California and recruiting just fine. Thank you very much. I want you to look at your office on Google Earth. And you're just going to intuitively know this from being in your area. But I want you to look, and then I want you to type your address in Google Earth, zoom up, and look all around you. Where are all the food trucks in your neighborhood? Go find those food trucks. Talk to the owner of the food truck. Print off a bunch of flyers. These are going to be slightly different job ads than the one with the tear-off bottoms, right? Each of these is going to be one single page, right? And it's going to say, now hiring carpenters, now hiring laborers, now hiring whatever, installers, whatever your thing is, right? But you go to the owner of the food truck. Let's say it's a mac and cheese truck. They sell, world famous macaroni and cheese. And you just say to them, look, for every meal that you send out, I want you to put one of our recruitment flyers in it. Here's 100 flyers. Here's $100. Do you think that guy is going to hand out those flyers for you? This strategy works. So here's what we know. We know that people that go to food trucks in a local area most likely work in the local area. We know that that food truck is the kind of food truck where there's a bunch of Ford F-150s parked in front of it on an ongoing basis. All one, you've got the right people there. You're in front of your people. It's all about target. If you go and post that a carpentry position is wanted and you put it somewhere where your target isn't, you're not going to get much traction. If you go to the university and you post it in the philosophy department in the professor's break room, you're not getting any applicants. You're just in front of the wrong target. You've got to be in front of the right target. Okay. So that food truck thing just works so well. But here's a little quick tip. Don't talk to the food truck guy between like 11:30 and 1 because he's probably so busy that he's got no time to talk to you. But give him the flyers and get him to hand them out, right? Those kinds of things really work. You might have a diner in your area. See if you can post flyers in there. Where your ideal person hangs out, right? But also make sure that you're putting the word out there and that you're not secretly hiring. We want to actually be hiring people. Now, other things that you can do is invite people to your shop or invite people out for an event. So let's say that the last Friday of every month, you're going to have some sort of event. Now, you got to be really careful with alcohol at these events, but you can sort it so that doesn't become a thing. Or if you've got the fair coming to town, or if there's a car show or something like that, you can tell everybody, hey, come on down to the car show. We're all going to meet at 10:30 in front of the Dairy Queen. I'm going to hand out tickets for the kids because they do have rides at the end. And it's just a great family thing for us all to do as a company. It's super simple. It's super cheap. It's super easy. It's not going to cost you a lot of money. But what you also want people to know is, hey, we're hiring. So as you're handing out the tickets for kids to get on the little Ferris wheel or the Dumbo ride, whatever it is, those Disney characters, just say, hey, listen, if you've got any friends who are looking for work, let them know. And just put the word out there, not only to the people working for you, but to their families. Because let's use a husband and wife scenario for a second. The wife has a sister, or she's got a sister-in-law, or she's in a mommy and me walking club. And she's going to go talk to the people at the mommy and me walking club and say, oh my God, this weekend we went to the car show. Jeff's boss bought everybody tickets, bought everybody ride passes, but we all got a hot dog and a soda. It's such a great place to work. Jeff's so happy there. And the other wife is going to say, really? Because my husband's miserable where he is. She's going to say, you know what? They're actually hiring finishers, installers, cabinet makers, electricians, whatever your job is, right? Because now they're aware of it. So think about your target and get in front of those people, right? Find things that they care about. For some people, it's all about having a tool account or having a company vehicle. Imagine a family that is a one vehicle family and they've got, let's say again, husband and wife and a couple of kids. They've got one vehicle. And so the wife is, running around doing her thing during the day, but the husband has the company vehicle. If that's something that you've got, and you can, there's a lot of safety issues to go along with that. But if you've got that, that's a feature to that job that gives some flexibility to that family, right? Gives flexibility to the family. What we're trying to do is show people that this is a great place to work, better than where they currently work, and you're going to get them. So have your job description. Don't be hiring people in secret. Put the job description out there. Be as specific as you can, but really think about, first of all, don't write an ad with a bunch of specifics in it. What we're really trying to do is just get people to apply. And you want to get them to apply in a very simple way, something they're used to, like texting. I do it here all the time, right? The easiest thing for all of us is just to send a text message. How many times have you guys heard me say, just text me 315-903-7853? I remember this was years ago. I was a much younger business coach then. We put together this beautiful ad and we had it posted everywhere. And we were looking for basically a labor position. And we were telling people to fax their resume in. And I'm looking at the ad and talking to the owner. I'm like, how come we're not getting any applicants? Like, this ad fits everything about recruiting that it should. It talked about the culture. It talked about the position. Everything was detailed. It looked nice. It was easy to understand, easy to read, everything. And then I realized, hang on a second, Rubino, you dum-dum. You're asking people in this position to have their own fax machine. This was a long time ago. Some of you are currently looking up what is a fax machine. But again, I wasn't lining up. I wasn't aligning our perfect applicant with the way to reach us. So I really like the SMS text message way to do things. There's just no friction. There's no friction at all. If your perfect employee goes to a certain nightclub or bar on the weekends, make sure that the hot dog cart outside the bar is handing out your flyers, because he's going to text you. He might be drunk, but he's like, yeah, I can use a new job. Okay, well, you might not be the great, we got to make sure you don't drink too much, but thank you. We got your name and number. Let's start the process. All we want is the names, and then we can start to sift and sort from there. Okay. So I don't want to get into what are the key performance indicators, what are the metrics, what are we going to track for a specific person, but that's something that you would do if you ever talk to us about growing your business, because every position has a couple of numbers that we can track for that. And then the other thing I want you to keep in mind is, what are your non-negotiables as an owner? Your values. What's really important to you? Is family really important to you? Is accuracy really important to you? Is honor and integrity really important to you? If those things are important to you, you need to find a way to work that into the conversation really early and upfront. And there's actually a number of ways that we can do that through the questions we ask and the way we phrase things. It's going to help people understand right away. What about technical stuff? Like, you need to make sure somebody can read a tape measure. You need to make sure somebody understands what a skill saw is and how to use it, or a chop saw, or whatever your tool is, right? You want to make sure you ask them those questions, but then you ask the questions just at a different level that lets you know somebody knows what they're talking about. Like, what nozzle do you like on your sprayer? And they'll say, nozzle? And then you're like, yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. When because we know the technical parts of this. So listen, distributing your ad is the next part of the job. Finding your target is a big thing. Now, don't be a secret employer. Get out there and let everybody know every single way that you can, especially when you're in front of the right audience. So there's job boards. There's online job boards and there's offline job boards. So the online job boards are Indeed, Seek. You can't really do it on Facebook. There's some clever ways to do it on Facebook. I'll come back to that in a second. But the other job boards are at the local coffee shop where there's a cork board, or the diner. Don't be afraid to put them on those local boards, because your perfect next employee is probably there, right? There's a place where I live. It's called Club Aviva. And Club Aviva is like a trampoline park for kids. And on the weekends, it's just birthday parties from, I don't know, let's say 8 in the morning till 8 at night. And every parent at some point, when your kids are that age, you have to cycle through Club Aviva. Well, there's a cork board there. You need to be on that cork board because on the weekend, when that mom or dad is finally relaxing, their kids at the birthday party getting filled with sugar and jumping on the trampoline, they've got some time to look around and they're going to look at the cork board and go, hey, this guy's hiring, that company's hiring. Isn't that interesting? And then they tear off that number on the bottom and they send you a text message. Think about the target, think about where they are, and then go in front of them. Okay, let me talk about Facebook for a second. You guys are probably taking a lot of notes. You can also have this conversation with me if you like, and we can pull it apart. Again, just text me 315-903-7853 if you need to get deeper on this. But look, Facebook, jobs on there are a little bit problematic. But what you can do is if new immigrants to the country are a big part of what you do, and let's just choose a country. Let's say your city has lots of people immigrating from Croatia. Just picking a country, right? There's going to be a Facebook group, and it's going to be called Croatians in Boise or Croatians in Winnipeg, whatever that group is. Like you already figured out how to do this. What I want you to do is contact the person that's the administrator of that account. And since you're not going to be able to post in Croatian, you're going to ask them to convert your job ad into Croatian and post it there. And then you're going to say to them, look, if I do hire anybody through your job ads, which I would very much love to do, let's say that we need masons and people from Europe, their masonry skills, their tile setting skills are just out of control, right? Because it's very big over there, right? So what a great place to hire people from right out of Europe, even though their English skills aren't great. Now you can have that Facebook page administrator translate your ad into Croatian, post it on the Facebook group, have some little code in there that, for instance, when they respond, get them to respond to the Facebook administrator, get the administrator to then send you the information. So now you know it came from them. And if you hire anybody, give them something reasonable, $300, $500. Not having, you might say $500, Dom, is a lot. Do you remember the exercise we did at the beginning of this episode? Your revenue responsibility per hour, if you run $1 million company, is $500. So I would gladly trade $500 to save all the 15 hours of going out there and hunting for people and not getting anywhere. If the Facebook administrator of this, what was the country I used? Croatians in Boise just sent me new applicants. I would do it all day long. Now, for people you hire, right? You wouldn't do it for people you hire. By the way, I just remembered we had, when we talk about the food trucks, one of my clients did this, the food truck thing. This is the Northern California guy, and ended up hiring a guy who was working in the food truck who was from Turkey, but he didn't know the language well enough to understand the name of the position, even though he used to do it in Turkey. And so when he saw the ad, he was like, I could do this job. I know this job. I'm great at this job. And so he ended up applying, and we hired him. So look, you just don't know where people are going to come from. So you've really got to try a bunch of different things, right? On your email signature, you should have something there that says now hiring, contact us. On your truck, now hiring, contact us, right? Ask your suppliers, ask your vendors, ask the person who you just bought. Let's say that you use a CNC. Who's just sold you a CNC? Talk to them and ask them. And quite often we hear the craziest things like, hey, just bought a CNC through us, it's getting installed. So now you can talk to the installer, the service tech, or you can talk to the company you bought it from. Those are two different companies quite often. And you say, hey, we're looking for a position. And somebody's going to say, you know what? We just got a call from a guy named George, who's really close to you, and he's shutting his shop down. Got some family things going on. He wants to really focus on family. So he's shutting his shop down. He might be a really good CNC operator for you. He might be a really good welder for you. He might be a really good da-da-da-da-da. So you don't know, but talk to those vendors, those suppliers, because they're out there talking to everybody else in the trade as well. You see what I mean? There's no shortage of opportunity, but most companies don't use these tools to go and recruit. And that's what I want you to do, is use the tools that are available. I want to give you every single unfair advantage that's possible. That's really, that would make me happy to give you an unfair advantage in your trade, in your city. Right? And then when you interview people, have a solid process and get ready to bring them on board as soon as possible. Make the offer, get them on the payroll right away. and start building that team that you want. So listen, we've gone on with this long enough. I've made a couple of different suggestions for different professional development tools for you. If you want any of those professional development tools, go ahead and send me a text. Again, my cell phone number is 315-903-7853. As I was just holding my fingers up, counting out the numbers for some reason, I noticed that I'm wearing a new shirt today. So I don't know if I've explained this very well, but because we have two different podcasts, which are also YouTube channels, one of them is called Profit Tool Belt, and the other one's called Cabinet Maker Profit System. It can be confusing for people. So we have our operating company is called Contractor Wealth System. And really, as you already can tell from what we're doing here, our job is to show contractors how to build real legacy, long-term wealth in their businesses. So Contractor Wealth System is our holdco, if you will. And then the two brands that we have, the two voices that you hear, one of them is Profit Tool Belt, and the other one is Cabinet Maker Profit System. And I mean, that one's pretty specific, isn't it? So I just saw my new shirt there. We got a bunch of hats as well that the coaches are going to be wearing pretty soon. So you'll start to see more of that. I even got Contractor Wealth System camo hats for hunting. Yeah. So you'll see us wearing those during coaching meetings or here on the podcast. All right. Thank you for checking in. Well, let's go to the outro. All right. Well. What did you learn from that hiring piece that we just did, that training piece? And what can you put in place? Because I do hope you put something in place. There's a lot to be had there. That taco truck strategy is just killer. You just got to go do it. So there's no more complaining. We don't have to complain. Where's the good people? The good people are out there. You have to go to them. So forget about posting to Indeed. Maybe even forget about posting to Facebook. I mean, I gave you some strategies for that. Those work great too. But the food truck thing, man, it's just killer. It's just killer. Anyways, I got an email from a guy named Chase. Now, that is his name. There's nothing defining in his email here. So I'm going to share his email. But I want to put a shout out to Al. Al runs a home renovations company in Winnipeg, Manitoba. And he's been working with us for a very, 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 very long time. And he has been, I tell you what, this guy just everything he learns, he goes to put in place. And he's just fantastic to watch running his business. He's just done such a great job of it. So for those of you who follow me on LinkedIn, you'll see that I posted something there for you to see. And it's really just incredible to see where he has made some changes in his business. Let me just do this for a second. I want to share, where is it? Right here. Where? You can't tell by looking at the numbers, but you'll see it on the LinkedIn post. He was able to turn I want you to imagine an Excel spreadsheet in front of you, and he was able to turn two of the cells green, and they were red before. And what green means on his dashboard is that he's hitting all of his goals. And so he is over his sales target by $12,000 for the year. He's over his sales target by $117,928 for the quarter. And for the year, we're off. So it's still in red by just a little over $200,000. However, what you don't see, and I didn't take a screen capture, is all of the work that's pending that's built up there. Now you might go, okay, well, that's great. Sounds cool. What does this have to do with hiring? Well, Mr. Al, the renovator extraordinaire, Mr. Businessman, had to fire both of his designers, which was 100% of his sales team. And guess what that did? And he did that, I'm going to say 9 months ago, might be 9 months ago. And so, of course, what did that do to his sales? His designers were designing home renovations, right? And kitchen cabinets and all that. And so sales just shot through the floor. So we had to, when we knew we were going to let those people go, we had to start recruiting right away. We had to get our systems in place. And we'd been working on other things within the company, but this became a problem because the numbers we were tracking told us that the designers were not selling to the level they needed to, and there were some attitude problems. Sound familiar to anybody? So first, I want to do a shout out to Al for a great job there. I had, as I often do, most of the time I'd use a fake name for Al. And then Al sent me a message on LinkedIn. It's like, you can say my name. So I did. Here it is. I just said it on the podcast. Anyways, congrats, Al. You guys have done a great job there. Here is a message from Chase. This is also his name, but there's no identifying information in here. Read you his email. It has to do with people as well. Hey, Dom, I hope this message finds you well. I wanted to say thanks for sharing the onboard SOP download. It's already been a real valuable resource for us. As the owner of a small company that I started on my own, I have faced my share of challenges, especially when it comes to finding good, reliable guys who are as dedicated to quality as I am. Now, what you don't know is the trade that he's in, or the piece of the trade. I mean, you know the trade, but you don't know the piece of the trade. He's in a specific part of the trade that's very, very, very detailed. And it's a great business. I've already looked it up online. I understand, I think, what they're trying to do. I understand who their ideal client is. I could see what he's trying to accomplish. So it's going to be interesting when we do have this meeting. But he needed that onboarding SOP. We actually talked about it in today's discussion. Anyways, he goes on to say, as I just described, he says, our customers want meticulous attention to detail. And even though I try, it's been hard to find and keep good staff who consistently meet the high standards we are looking for. With 9 employees now on my team, I've been doing everything I can to keep things running smooth. But I think with some extra guidance and another set of eyes, we could really increase our operations and overall success. I've been following your podcast closely, got some great insights from it. He says some other stuff here I'm going to skip. And then he says, hey, can we talk about the possibility of coaching and how it would benefit my business? If you're available, I'd love to set up a meeting. Thanks again. Love your show. Then he says, even your jokes most of the time. It finishes with talk to y'all soon. And he actually said y'all, like Y apostrophe all, y'all. Talk to y'all soon. So you guys already know what part of the country he's in. And that's Chase. Just fantastic. Thank you, Chase, by the way, for sending an email like that and waiting till the end to drop the joke hammer. He says, thank you again. Love your show. Even the jokes most of the time. Ouch. That's okay. I'm all good with that. So listen, what we're talking about today is the people problem. And the people problem is the limiter for lots of us. We can't find the right people. When we do find the right people, they're not consistent at work. It's hard to keep them motivated, hard to keep showing up, get the quality out of them. All of those are solvable things. They're all solvable. And there's simple systems to solve that. We just got to pick them apart one by one at a time, focus on them, and make sure that we turn them into assets for us. People are, your greatest asset. We hear it all the time, but it's true. So we talked today about recruiting. There's some professional development tools that I shared on today's show. I'd love for you to download those. Any of the tools that I talked about, just text me and I'll send them to you. We talked about the onboarding SOP. And for those of you not familiar with the word SOP, it stands for standard operating procedure. So there's the onboarding SOP, and then there's how to hire for attitude, which includes 2 scripts that you can use for interviewing. Now, I think the interesting thing about that professional development tool is that it's more focused on the office operations because we do a different kind of interview for that. But it is still interesting to see how we hire and sort and sift people for attitude. Then we had a discussion about revenue responsibility per hour. We also didn't talk about this today, but as I was preparing the outro, I thought that what might be interesting as a professional development tool for you is the how to find your blind spots in the business, because you might think it's a people problem, or you might think like Al, we thought it was a numbers problem, but it actually was a people problem. So sometimes problem masquerade is something else, right? And let's use trades for example. Somebody says, "Oh my God, we got mold in our house. We have a moldy ceiling," and then you go look at it. You already know on your way over there, you don't have a moldy ceiling. You have a plumbing problem, and you have a plumbing problem because X, Y, or Z, right? So it looks like one thing, but it's actually something else. So that's why I think if I'm doing my best work as your business coach today, moving as high up the food chain as we can to solve the problem at its source means, in my mind, I should at least offer to have you have this tool, which is called the Blind Spots Professional Development Tool. So again, just text me if you want it. My cell phone number is 315-903-7853 and say Blind Spots. One other thing, we are ramping up the masterclass webinars that we were doing earlier in the year. If you are a fan of ongoing continuous improvement and professional development training, you should join us for that. This is a free webinar, free masterclass. And what I'm going to be diving into is the time, team, and money issue just for contractors, because contracting business is different than others. So join me for that. You have to get on the wait list for it. Once we have enough people on the wait list, we'll schedule time. And again, everything here is really the same. We try to keep it simple. just send me a text and say waitlist. And I've said the cell phone number 50 gajillion times. So 50 gajillion and one ain't going to hurt anybody. 315-903-7853. And just say waitlist, and then we'll put you on the waitlist. All right. Thank you very much for checking in. I appreciate it. I hope this solved some of the things that are keeping you up at night. And I look forward to a day when you and I can have a glass of wine, cup of coffee across the table from each other, like I've had a chance to do with quite a few people over the summer. Let's do more of that. All right, folks. Talk to you soon.